C# tutorial, arrays and strings. C# provides numerous built-in classes to store and manipulate data. One example of such a class is the array class. An array is a data structure that is used to store a collection of data. You can think of it as a collection of variables of the same type. For example, consider a situation where you need to store 100 numbers. Rather than declare 100 different variables, you can just declare an array that stores 100 elements. To declare an array, specify its element type with square brackets. Int square brackets myArray semicolon. This statement declares an array of integers. Since arrays are objects, we need to instantiate them with the new keyword. Int square brackets myArray equals new int square brackets 5 semicolon. This instantiates an array named myArray that holds 5 integers. Note the square brackets used to define the number of elements the array should hold. Fill in the blanks to instantiate an array of 42 elements of type double. Double, square brackets A equals new double, square brackets 42 semicolon. After creating the array, you can assign values to individual elements by using the index number. Int square brackets myArray equals new int square brackets 5 semicolon. MyArray square brackets 0 equals 23 semicolon. This will assign the value 23 to the first element of the array. Arrays in C# are 0 indexed, meaning that the first member has index 0, the second has index 1, and so on. The third element of an array has index 2. We can provide initial values to the array when it's declared by using curly brackets. String square brackets names equals new string square brackets 3 curly brackets John in double quotes, comma Mary in double quotes, comma Jessica in double quotes, semicolon. Or you can create an array with a double data type. Double square brackets prices equals new double square brackets 4 curly brackets 3.6 comma 9.8 comma 6.4 comma 5.9 semicolon. We can omit the size declaration when the number of elements are provided in the curly braces. We do that this way. String square brackets names equals new string square brackets with nothing in it curly brackets John in double quotes, comma Mary in double quotes, comma Jessica in double quotes, semicolon. And the same idea goes for the double array. Double square brackets prices equals new double square brackets with nothing inside, curly brackets 3.6, comma 9.8, comma 6.4, comma 5.9 curly brace. Semicolon. We can even omit the new operator. The following statements are identical to the ones above. String square brackets names equals curly brackets John in double quotes, comma Mary in double quotes, comma Jessica in double quotes, semicolon. And for the other array, double square brackets prices equals curly brackets 3.6, comma 9.8, comma 6.4, comma 5.9, semicolon. Array values should be provided in a comma-separated list enclosed in curly braces. Fill in the blanks to instantiate the array with initial values. Int square brackets A equals opening curly brace 1, comma 2, comma 3, closing curly brace, semicolon. As mentioned, each element of an array has an index number. For example, consider the following array. Int square brackets B equals curly brackets 11, comma 45, comma 62, comma 70, comma 88, semicolon. The elements of B have the following indexes. 11 has an index of 0, 45 an index of 1, 62 has an index of 2, 70 has an index of 3, and 88 has an index of 4. To access individual array elements, place the element's index number in square brackets following the array name. Console.WriteLine parentheses b square brackets 2 semicolon output 62. Console.WriteLine parentheses b square brackets 3 semicolon output 70. Remember that the first element has the index of 0. What is the value of x after these statements execute? Int square brackets a equals curly brackets 4, 7, 2 semicolon. Int x equals a square brackets 0 plus a square brackets 2 semicolon. Well, a square brackets 0 is pointing to 4 and a square brackets 2 is pointing to 2. So 4 plus 2 equals 6. That's on the right-hand side of the equal sign, and it's assigned to the x on the left-hand side of the equal sign. So we want to output 6. Now let's look at using arrays in loops. It's occasionally necessary to iterate through the elements of an array, making element assignments based on certain calculations. This can be easily done using loops. For example, you can declare an array of 10 integers and assign each element an even value with the following loop. Int square brackets a equals new int square brackets 10 semicolon, and then 4 parentheses int k equals 0 semicolon, k less than 10 semicolon, k plus plus. In the curly braces is the body of the for loop, and that has one single statement. A square brackets k equals k times 2 semicolon. We can also use a loop to read the values of an array. For example, we can display the contents of the array that we just created above. 4 parentheses int k equals 0 semicolon, k less than 10 semicolon, k plus plus. And in the loop, in the for loop's body, which is enclosed in curly braces, we have a single line. This one says console.WriteLine parentheses a square brackets k semicolon. Try it yourself. Let's look at the output. Let's hit the run down here at the right bottom with the green triangle. Zero, next line 2, next line 4, next line 6, next line 8, next line 10, next line 12. This will display the values of the elements of the array. The variable k is used to access each array element. The last index in the array is 9, so the for loop condition is k less than 10. Fill in the blanks to print all elements of the array using a for loop. Int square brackets r equals new int square brackets 7 semicolon. 4 is the key word we want. We're going to use a for loop for this. Int k equals 0 semicolon, k less than 7 semicolon, k plus plus. And in the body of the for loop we have console.WriteLine ARR square brackets k. The for each loop. The for each loop provides a shorter and easier way of accessing array elements. The previous example of accessing the elements could be written using a for each loop like this. We use the for each keyword and in parentheses int k in a. And in the body of the for each loop, in these curly braces, we have a single line of code that says console.WriteLine parentheses k semicolon. Try it yourself. Let's give it a shot. Let's hit the run and check out the output. All right. So from 0 to 12, we see each one is incremented by 2. The for each loop iterates through the array A and assigns the value of the current element to the variable k at each iteration of the loop. So at the first iteration, k equals a square bracket 0. At the second iteration, k equals a square brackets 1, etc. The data type of the variable in the for each loop should match the type of the array elements. Often the keyword var is used as the type of the variable, as in for each parentheses var k in A. The compiler determines the appropriate type for var. Fill in the blanks to create a valid for each loop that displays all even elements of the array. Int square brackets nums equals curly brackets 5, 2, 3, 4, 7, semicolon. Now we're going to use the for each keyword to do the for each loop. Var n in nums. And in the body of this for each loop, we have if n modulus 2 equals 0. If that's true, then console.writeLine n. The following code uses a for each loop to calculate the sum of all of the elements of an array. Int square brackets r equals curly brackets 11, 35, 62, 555, 989, semicolon. Int sum equals 0, semicolon. For each parentheses int x in r, in the body of the for each loop we have sum plus equals x, semicolon, and then outside of that for each loop, outside of the curly braces, we have console.writeLine parentheses sum, semicolon. What that does is it adds 11 plus 35 plus 62 plus 555 plus 989 and gives us the output 1652. To review, we declared an array and a variable sum that will hold the sum of the elements. Next, we utilized a for each loop to iterate through each element of the array, adding the corresponding element's value to the sum variable. The array class provides some useful methods that will be discussed in the coming lessons. What is the output of this code? Int square brackets r equals curly brackets 8, 2, 6, semicolon. Int y equals 0, semicolon. For each parentheses int x in r, and then in the body of the for each loop we have y plus equals x divided by 2, semicolon. Outside of the for each loop we have the statement console.write parentheses y, semicolon. So in the for each loop we have y equal to y plus x divided by 2. So let's figure out what x divided by 2 will be. Because the for each is going to iterate through each one of the elements in this array, the first array element is an 8. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. Y starts off as 0. So y equals 0 plus 4. That answer is 4. And then it goes into the y variable again. Then when it goes through the next iteration of the loop, it's going to talk about the element which is valued at 2. X divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So we're going to add that to the 4 that we did before. So 4 plus 1 is 5. Then we're going to go through the loop again, and we're going to point out the value of 6. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. So 5 plus 3 is 8. So the very last line, console.write, the last value of y is 8. That's what it's going to spit out. Okay, let's go to multidimensional arrays. An array can have multiple dimensions. A multiple dimensional array is declared as follows. You have type, which is int, string, double, so on and so forth. You've got square brackets with one or more commas inside. And then you have the array name, whatever you name it, equals. Then you have on the right hand side of the equals, you have to use the new keyword. And then the type again, which is int, string, double, or whatever. And then in square brackets, you have size 1, comma, size 2, comma, so on and so forth. For example, let's define a two-dimensional 3x4 integer array. Int, square brackets, a single comma, x equals new int, square brackets, 3 comma 4, semicolon. Visualize this array as a table, okay, composed of 3 rows and 4 columns. So on the right-hand side of the equals, where we have new int 3 comma 4, that's 3 rows and 4 columns, which gives us a total of 12 data cells, 12 possible pieces of data. It's a two-dimensional array. Inside of the first square brackets, on the left-hand side of the equal sign, the int square brackets, a single column x, that's a two-dimensional array because you've got one dimension to the left-hand side of the comma, one dimension to the right-hand side of the comma, so that gives us 2 dimensions. Okay, so let's continue here. Fill in the blanks to declare a two-dimensional array of integers with 8 rows and 8 columns. Int is already provided for us. In our first square brackets, we want to put a single comma to indicate 2 dimensions. Chessboard, the name of the two-dimensional array, is given for us, and the equal sign is given for us. We need to put in the new keyword, int, again, and then in the square brackets this time, for rows, the rows are already given for us, that is 8, and a comma. Now we need to put in the 8 for the columns. So for this particular multi-dimensional, two-dimensional array called chessboard, there are 64 possible data cells. We can initialize multi-dimensional arrays in the same way as single-dimensional arrays. For example, int, and in the square brackets we've got the 1 comma to indicate two-dimensional array. The name is sumNums, and we're setting that equal to a big bunch of information enclosed in curly braces. Each one of these rows is going to have its own pair of curly braces separated by commas. So we've got 2 comma 3 in curly braces, comma 5 comma 6 in curly braces, comma 4 comma 6 in curly braces. So what we have here is, in the first row, we have a 2 for column 1 and a 3 for column 2. You go down a line, and in the second row we have a 5 for the first column and then a 6 for the second column. And then in the next row we have a 4 in the first column and a 6 in the second column. So in this particular multidimensional array, we've got 2, 3, 5, 6, 4, 6. This will create an array with 3 rows and 2 columns. Nested curly brackets are used to define values for each row. To access an element of the array, provide both indexes. For example, sumNums, straight brackets 2 comma 0, will return the value 4 as it accesses the first column of the third row. Let's create a program that will display the values of the array in the form of a table. For parentheses int k equals 0, semicolon, k less than 3, semicolon, k plus plus. Opening curly brace. Everything in the curly braces is the body of this outer for loop. We have a nested for loop inside that's for parentheses int j equals 0, semicolon, j less than 2, semicolon, j plus plus. And the body for this inner for loop has the statement console.write, parentheses, sumNums, straight brackets k, comma j, plus a space, indicated by a double quotes with a space in between. And then you end that statement with a semicolon. Then you end that inner for loop's body with a semicolon. Outside of the inner loop's body, you have the line console.write line. that belongs to the outer loops body, and then you close the outer 4 loops body with another ending curly brace. So we have 2 nested 4 loops here, 1 to iterate through the rows and 1 to iterate through the columns. Remember, we had 3 rows, so the outer 4 loop is dealing with the rows, the inner 4 loop is dealing with the columns. The console.WriteLine statement at the end there moves the output to a new line after 1 row is printed. The note down here at the bottom says arrays can have any number of dimensions, but keep in mind that arrays with more than 3 dimensions are harder to manage. Before I hit continue, let's hit try it yourself just to take a look at what the output looks like from this code. Let's just hit run. All right, you've got in the first row a 2 in column 1, in column 2 you got a 3. In the next row you've got 5 in column 1 and 6 in column 2. And in the next row you have 4 in column 1 and 6 in column 2. In the third row you have 4 in column 1 and 6 in column 2. So let's move on. How many dimensions does the following array have? Int, and in square brackets, comma, 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 r, semicolon. Okay, so count the spaces before and after each comma. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there should be 4 dimensions to that array. Correct. Alrighty, let's look at, let me see, did I just do this one? Yeah. Back out of there. Let's look at jagged arrays. A jagged array is an array whose elements are arrays. So it is basically an array of arrays. The following is a declaration of a single-dimensional array that has 3 elements, each of which is a single-dimensional array of integers. So we're getting a little complicated now. Int, square brackets, jagged r equals new int, square brackets 3, square brackets, semicolon. Okay. So each dimension is an array, so you can also initialize the array upon declaration like this. Int, square brackets, jagged r equals new int, square brackets, and then in our curly brackets, we've got 3 things separated by commas. New int, square brackets, curly braces 1, 8, 2, 7, 9, comma, outside of the square brackets. The next line is new int, square brackets, curly brackets 2, 4, 6, comma. The third line is new int, square brackets, curly brackets 33, 42. Then you close up your curly brace and you end it with a semicolon. So all of that was one statement. Now you can access the individual array elements as shown in the example below. So on the right-hand side of the equals, you have the name of the jagged array, and then you've got in the square brackets 2, and then in the next square brackets 1 and a semicolon. The 2 is, you've got 3 different lines here, new int array, and new int array. The 2 means you're going to go, the first int array would be 0, the second would be 1, the third would be 2. So we're going to look at the third line there, the third array, new int array with 33 and 42. Okay, so we're looking at the third line, and we want the element in the curly braces, we want the one that has the index of 1. So we're not choosing the 33 in there, we're choosing the 42. And as you can see, it's got / 42 commenting that that's what it's picking out. That's what it's accessing. Okay, let's This accesses the second element of the third array. A jagged array is an array of arrays. So an int square brackets is an array of int arrays. Each one can be of different lengths and occupy their own block in memory. Now, a multidimensional array, int square brackets with a comma with one or more commas inside, is a single block of memory, essentially a matrix, and it always has the same amount of columns for every row. So a jagged array can have different number of columns in each row. Actually, a different number of elements in each array. A jagged array can have a different number of elements in each array, and a multidimensional array must have the same amount of columns for every row. Fill in the blanks to declare a jagged array that contains 8 two-dimensional arrays. So we have int square brackets with a comma inside, A equals new int, and in the first square brackets I'm going to go with the 8, and in the second square brackets I'm going to put a single comma. Let's go down to array properties and methods now. The array class in C# provides various properties and methods to work with arrays. For example, the length and rank properties return the number of elements and the number of dimensions of the array, respectively. You can access them using the dot syntax just like any class members. So int square brackets r equals curly brackets 2, 4, 7, semicolon, and then console.writeLine parentheses r.length. That's going to output 3 because there's 3 elements in this array. And that's what length does for us. It counts how many things are in the array, how many things are in the list. Console.writeLine parentheses r.rank, on the other hand, wants to know how many dimensions is in this array. So when you look at the left-hand side of the equal sign, int square brackets r, there's no comma inside there, so that's a single dimension array. So the output for r.rank would be 1. The length property can be useful in for loops where you need to specify the number of times that the loop should run. For example, int square brackets r equals curly brackets 2, 4, 7, semicolon, for parentheses int k equals 0, semicolon, k less than r.length, semicolon, k plus plus, and in the body of the for loop we have console.writeLine parentheses r square brackets k, semicolon. So let's try it yourself and take a look at the output for that code. Two on one line, 4 on the next line, and 7 on the next line. What is the output of this code? Int square brackets 2 commas a equals new int square brackets 2, 3, 4, semicolon, and then console.write parentheses a.rank, semicolon. Remember, a.rank wants to know how many dimensions, and since we have 2 commas inside the square brackets, count the spaces before and after those commas, you've got 3. So there's 3 dimensions to that. There are a number of methods available for arrays. Max returns the largest value, min returns the smallest value, and sum returns the sum of all the elements. For example, int square brackets r equals curly brackets 2, 4, 7, 1, semicolon. Console.writeLine parentheses r.max is going to output 7. It's the highest element in the array. Console.writeLine parentheses r.min is going to output 1 because 1 is the smallest number of this array. Console.WriteLine parentheses r.sum is going to output 14 because it adds the value of all the array elements. 2 plus 4 is 6 plus 7 is 13 plus 1 is 14. C# also provides a static array class with additional methods. You will learn about those in the next module. What is the output of this code? Int square brackets a equals curly brackets 4, 6, 5, 2, semicolon. Int x equals a square bracket 0 plus a dot min, semicolon. Console.write parentheses x, semicolon. Well, a square bracket 0 is referring to 4, the first element, because it's got an index of 0. And a dot min is going to talk about 2. So 4 plus 2 is 6. And so the expression is done on the right-hand side of the equals. We get 6, and we assign it with the equal sign to the variable x on the left. So console.write x is going to give us an output of 6. Okay, that's what I just did. So now we're on working with strings. It's common to think of strings as arrays of characters. Wait a minute. Okay, I had to double check that I was starting each new section at the very beginning because I've done this before, and if I was repeating the video, sometimes I'd get to a section and it would start in the middle of the section, not the beginning. But I think I'm good. Anyway, it's common to think of strings as arrays of characters. In reality, strings in C# are objects. When you just declare a string variable, you basically instantiate an object of type string. String objects support a number of useful properties and methods. Length returns the length of the string. Index of parentheses value returns the index of the first occurrence of the value within the string. Insert parentheses index comma value inserts the value into the string starting from the specified index. Remove parentheses index removes all characters in the string after the specified index. Replace parentheses old value comma new value replaces the specified value in the string. Substring parentheses index comma length returns a substring of the specified length starting from the specified index. If length is not specified, the operation continues to the end of the string. Contains parentheses value returns true if the string contains the specified value. The examples below demonstrate each of the string members. String A equals some text, in double quotes and ending with a semicolon. Console.WriteLine parentheses a.length will output 9 because it's counting how many characters are in some text. So if we count sum as 4, the space is 5, and text is another 4, you get the output of 9. Console.WriteLine parentheses a dot index of parentheses and single quotes t. That's going to output 5 because now we're dealing with indexes. So you use S as index 0, O is 1, M is 2, E is 3, space is 4, and T is 5. A equals A dot insert parentheses O comma the string this is with a space. When you console.WriteLine parentheses A, the output is going to be this is some text because when you use the A dot insert, the 0 means you're going to insert something at index 0, which right now index 0 is the S for some text. So we're going to put this is at index 0. So it's going to replace, it's going to go in front of some. So instead of just having some text, we have this is some text. And there's also a space after this is before the ending double quote that gives, if we didn't put that space in there, this is some text would be squashed together. The two S's would be next to each other. Then we've got A equals A dot replace. Before the comma, we have the string this is. After the comma, we have the string I am. So console.writeLine parentheses A means that where this is some text is going to turn into I am some text. This is replaced with I am. Then we have if and a condition, A dot contains parentheses double quotes some. If that's true, then console.writeLine, the string found will be the output. Because I am some text does have the string some inside of it, it does contain that pattern some, then found is output. All right, ooh, what did I do? Okay, stop to contains. A equals A dot remove parentheses 4, console.writeLine parentheses A. That's going to output I am because it's going to start at 0 with I am some text. When it gets to index 4, it's going to remove everything after that. So I is 0, space is 1, A is 2, M is 3, space is 4. Everything from index 4 and on gets removed. Then we have A equals A dot substring parentheses 2, console.writeLine parentheses A. That's going to output am because with the string now being I am, I is 0, space is 1, A is 2. So from index 2 on, it's going to pull that substring and output it. Okay, you can also access characters of a string by its index, just like accessing elements of an array, like this. String A equals some text in double quotes, semicolon, console.writeLine parentheses A, square brackets 2. And that's going to output an M because S is the index 0, O is the index 1, M is the index 2. So it's going to output the M. Indexes in strings are similar to arrays. They start from 0. What is the output of this code? String S equals solo learn is awesome. Console.write parentheses S dot index of parentheses and single quotes E. We're talking about index of, so let's start counting from left to right until we get to the E. S is 0, O is 1, L is 2, O is 3, L is 4, E is 5. So number 5 is the index. Working with strings. Let's create a program that will take a string, replace all occurrences of the word dog with cat, and output the first sentence only. So we start off by creating a big long string. String text equals, this is some text about a dog, period. The word dog appears in this text a number of times, period. This is the end. So we have all that enclosed in a double quotes and end that whole big long thing with a semicolon. The first thing we're going to do is text equals text.replace parentheses dog and semicolon, comma, cat, and not in semicolons, dog in double quotes, comma, cat in double quotes, semicolon. So everywhere that you see dog, it's going to change it to cat. So you're going to have that big long thing. This is some text about a cat. The word cat appears in this text a number of times. This is the end. The next statement, text equals text.substring, starting at index 0, which is the T, and then comma, we're going to go to text.index of, we're going to go all the way to the index of the period, the first period. Okay, the index of the first period, remember when we're dealing with indexes, the T is 0, right? The H is 1. So by the time we get to the index of period, whatever that number is, it's going to be 1 less than what the character actually is, since the index starts at 0. So that's why we add a +1 after that, because we want to include that period. So that substring is going to take it from the T in this all the way to the period after the first sentence's period. So then when we use our console.writeLine parentheses text, it's going to just output, this is some text about a cat. The code above replaces all occurrences of dog with cat. After that, it takes a substring of the original string, starting from the first index until the first occurrence of a period character. We add 1 to the index of the period to include the period in the substring. C# provides a solid collection of tools and methods to work and manipulate strings. You could, for example, find the number of times a specific word appears in a book with ease using those methods. Fill in the blanks to assign the last character of the string to the X variable. String S equals hello. Char X. X equals, well, they're giving us a little bit enough to make some guesswork here. They're giving us square brackets. So they gave us an opening square bracket, so I think it's safe to say we need to end this with an ending square bracket. So now the only thing that we need to guess or fill in the blanks for is what is before the square brackets. Well, char X doesn't make any sense. String S, however, does, because string S is the string that we're dealing with as far as counting indexes. So we're going to put our S there. X is equal to S, and then the square brackets S dot length minus 1. Now S dot length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 characters. It's not talking about index, it's talking about length. There are 5 characters in hello. So S dot length minus 1 would be 4. So S square brackets 4. Now we're talking about the index. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 would be O. So X would be equal to O. If we were going to print out the value of X, it would be the O. Going through all that, but this didn't ask us to come up with the value of X. It just wanted us to fill in the blanks so that we made proper code. I just went a step further. Okay, Module 5 quiz. An array is a reference type. Fill in the blanks to print all elements of the array. Int square brackets r equals curly brackets 0, 5, 3, 2, 1, semicolon. For each, parentheses, int item in r. And then in the body of the for loop, we have console.writeLine item, because we want each item in the array. If it was for each int x in R, then we would have console.writeLine parentheses x. If it was for each int thingy in R, then we would have console.writeLine parentheses thingy. What is the output of this code? String s equals solo learn console.write s index 6. Okay, we're starting with s. We're doing indexes, so we start with 0. So s is 0, o is 1, l is 2, o is 3, l is 4, e is 5, a is 6. Let me try that again. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our output should be letter A. Okay. How many elements can the following array store? I did this once and I wasn't sure how to get it. If this was a two-dimensional array, then it would be easy because it would be rows and columns. So if this were a two-dimensional array and it just had in int 1 comma array equals new int, and then in the square brackets it was 4 comma 5, then it would be 4 times 5, 4 rows times 5 columns. So that would be 20. So I'm going to guess with that information that if it were 4 rows and 5 columns, this being a three-dimensional array, we're going to say 4 times 5 is 20 times 3 is 60. So let me see if that's correct, if it will have that many elements in that array. Oh, I was right. Okay. What is the output of this code? String s equals solo learn. Int x equals s dot length. A length is how many characters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So x is equal to 9. Int y equals s dot index of e. Now we're starting at 0 because we're dealing with indexes, and we're going to go to the first e. Well, there's only one e here, but s is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so the index of e is 5. The length was 9. Console.write x modulus y means 9 modulus 5. 9 modulus 5 means what is the remainder of 9 divided by 5? 9 divided by 5 is 1 with 4 left over. 5 goes into 9 one time with 4 left over. So console.write should be 4. Great. Okay, with that we've finished the arrays and strings section.